is Jesus? Well, He's the best of the very best. He's great. In fact, He's greater than anybody else. He's the greatest of all the greats. He's the greatest of the great. Jesus is awesome. And one way Jesus was awesome was He was a great prophet. He predicted what would happen in the future. He made a bunch of predictions just about His own death and resurrection. He said He would be betrayed. He would be betrayed by one of His 12 disciples, and that disciple would be Judas, and He was right about all those things. He said that Peter would deny Him 3 times, and He did. Jesus said that He would be forsaken by His disciples, and He was. He said He was going to suffer at the hands of the Jews, and certainly He did. Jesus said He would die like a snake on a pole, referring back to the Old Testament, where Moses put a snake on a pole and people that looked to it were given life. Men dying on crosses writhed in agony to breathe like snakes on poles. And Jesus, if we look to Him on that cross, we receive life. He predicted how He would die. He predicted He was going to die as the shepherd for His sheep. He said He would die like seed going into the ground dies before it sprouts and brings forth a great harvest. And then after His death, of course, the church was born and had a great harvest of 1 million souls in its first 70 years. Jesus predicted He was going to rise from the dead after 3 days, and He did. He said He was going to ascend back into heaven, and He did. He said that there was going to be coming a destruction of the temple, and it happened 70 years later, 70 AD, 40 years later, and a destruction of Jerusalem, and that happened as well at the hands of the Romans. All these things He predicted came true, which is interesting because He also predicted other things that were coming further down the line near the end of the world, and we need to pay attention to these things. Jesus predicted that there would be a rise of false teachers, false messiahs. He said there would be an increase in war. He said that there would be famines and earthquakes increasing on the earth. He said that there was going to be a global spread of the gospel. And interesting, with computers, we're now able to translate the Bible into languages so much more quickly. And with the internet, we're able to get the gospel all over the world. Even these videos go all over the world. It's incredible. There's going to be a destruction of the rebuilt temple in Jerusalem. Well, the temple hasn't been rebuilt yet, but there's plans to make that happen. The Antichrist is going to go in the middle of the tribulation and desecrate it. There's coming great global distress, a great tribulation on the earth. We call this period the tribulation, just prior to the return of Jesus Christ. Jesus did predict also in Matthew chapter 24 that there would be a return of Israel to her homeland. And that one's already happened. That happened in 1948. So all these things, if He was right about all these things, we need to believe He's probably going to be right about these things, so we need to be ready. We need to be right with God. We need to be saved. We need to be serving Him, and we need to be sharing the good news with others. We need to be telling people about Jesus because Jesus is the greatest.